We're learning the first sikha of Parshas Shlach in Chelek of Gimel on page 92. The shir today is being learned to the Nishmas Rabbi ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Oifem pasuk Shlach Lecha Anoshim. On the pasuk in the beginning of this week's Parsha, Shlach Lecha Anoshim, where the Eibusha tells Moshe Rabbeinu, send men to Eretz Yisrael. This is the story of the Meraglim. Zogan Chazal, it says in the Gemara, Shlach Lecha means L'daitecha. Send for yourself. What that means is, of course, it's for all of Klal Yisrael, but it means it's your decision. As the Shaluach HaMeraglim is given ophengig in Daita Shel Moshe, the sending of the Meraglim is dependent on the decision of Moshe Rabbeinu. Aber ani eini mitzavesach. But Hashem says, I do not command you to send these Meraglim. Darf man verstehen? So the question here is, Moshe Rabbeinu is doch given an Eved Ne'eman von Eibishter. Moshe Rabbeinu is a faithful servant of Hashem. Is the fun verstandig? If so, we understand. As das was Daita Shel Moshe is given to schicken the Meraglim, if it's Moshe Rabbeinu's opinion that you should send Meraglim, is this the far was as is given Daita Shel Adonai dem Eibishter? It's because this is the opinion of his master, of Hashem. He doesn't have any opinion of his own, like a servant that doesn't do things for his own purpose with his own opinion, different than his master. Only the pasuk is made. The pasuk says later on, "Vayishlach Osem Moshe Gomer al pi Hashem," that Moshe Rabbeinu sends the Meraglim, and he sends them according to the mouth of Hashem, which means b'reshusay shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem's permission. Heiste, so what this means is, as an inyan fin shiluach hameraglim mitzad atzmai, that sending the Meraglim, this idea itself of sending the Meraglim is a davet toiv ratzai, is something which is good and positive. On wie der Rambam is mevayer, the Ramban that is also explains this as the derech harogel von einem in a land. What is the ordinary fashion of conquering a country? Is durch schicken frier Meraglim. You send spies zu ausgefinden, was is the beste Weg, of beste und geringste Weg, lichbisches Oretz. What's the best and easiest way to conquer the country? And since you don't rely on miracles, and you must prepare according to whatever nature it demands. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu agreed to send Meraglim. If so, the question here is nit verstandig. So now you have to understand why the pasuk here says, why does Hashem say that this is dependent on the decision of Moshe? And why doesn't Hashem himself, from the beginning, command to do so? If this is something that's positive and necessary, and what is supposed to be happening when you come to conquer the land, Eretz Yisrael, so then Hashem should have commanded that this should be done. Another question here is, regarding the Meraglim that Moshe Rabbeinu chose, Rashi says, at that time, they were fitting for this mission. This is something which is self-understood logically. If you look at the story here, as if Moshe Rabbeinu himself chooses these men to be the Meraglim, then it must be not only were they in general ksherim, people that were fitting for such a mission, that am besten, or ksherim b'chlal, the people that are kosher in general for other things, nor that am besten zugepaste for der dosike shlichus. They're the most fitting and the best people chosen to fulfill this specific mission here, to be the Meraglim in Eretz Yisrael. If so, the question is wie kommt es, how does it come to be, as bei sie is geworden as greishes shini, min hakotze ala kotze. How did they go through such a big change from one extreme to another? As nit nor haben sie die Schliches nit durchgeführt kedeboi, not only did they not fulfill this mission to its best and perfect degree, rather the exact opposite. They brought upon Klal Yisrael such a calamity which was all future generations cry about this. The expression that the Gemara says regarding this day of Tisha B'Av. So how could they go through such a major change of heart and in their behavior from the way they were in the beginning? So we'll understand this by first explaining in them was man gefindt as the Shlichus is bechlolus verstanden von zwei Jahren. So the Shlichus here that the Meraglim had going to Eretz Yisrael, it consisted of two different details. Aleph, number one, zu ausgefinden die Proten, welche sind in Geya zu dem Kibbush Oretz. They were sent to find out the details that are relevant for conquering the land. As the pasuk says, to see how strong they are. Are they few or many? Are they living in open cities or in walled cities? This is all to understand from where and how they're going to conquer the land. Based, another detail, to find out the details regarding the condition and the quality of the land itself. Is it a good land? Is it a fat land? This second pointer of their mission was something that was so important, as Moshe Rabbeinu warns them and tells them, be strong and take and bring back from the fruits of the land. Why does he have to encourage them to do so? By bringing back fruits from the land, they are endangering themselves. As Mevet Kenan the Canaanites is in a Meraglim, they'll be exposed that they are Meraglim here. They'll be seen that they're carrying fruits out of the country. Sollen sie von deswegen sich starken und anstrengen und bringen mit Priorität. Nevertheless, they should be strong and make an extra effort to bring back from the fruits of the land, to show the Yidden the fruits. Isn't it glatik? So this point here about bringing back the fruits of the land is not fully understood. Emes take, true, as eine Däume ri'ye l'shmiya. You can't compare when you see something firsthand to hearing about something. Underiber, so therefore there's a value to bringing back the fruits, because nit kukendik was der Eibishter hat schon gezählt jeden. As Eretz Yisrael is an Eretz Teiva Rechava Gein. Eretz Zavas Cholav Udvash. They were told about the land, that it's a good land, and it's a land flowing with milk and honey. Yidden sind doch maminim b'nei maminim, Yidden being believers, the sons of believers. Ubefrat, as men darf dabei nicht ankommen zu Amunah, and especially that they don't have to rely on just belief. Varim sicher haben Hadarim b'Mitzrayim gewusst, was das tut sich in Eretz Yisrael. Yidden living in Mitzrayim for many years definitely had information, hearing of what goes on in Eretz Yisrael, which was not too distant from Mitzrayim. So Yidden must have known that Eretz Yisrael is a special, unique land, the goodness of the land and the fruits of the land. But nevertheless, kommt es aber nicht zu der Ias Peres Aretz. You can't compare to what you know and hear from a distance to what you see firsthand. So therefore, bringing back the fruits and showing the Yidden these unbelievable fruits of the land will definitely cause Yidden to want to go up to Eretz Yisrael with a joy. This is what the Ramban here says. That's the point of bringing back the fruits of the land. Von deswegen, however, the question is, Ziden, is this a so nötig? Is this something which is so important? Bis zu einstellen über dem die Lebens von den Meraglim, to the point that it pays to put the life of the Meraglim in danger in order to accomplish this simcha, that they should see the fruits firsthand. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu warning them and telling them chazak them that they should bring back the fruits of the land? So eine von the Biyurim, and then one of the explanations for this is as follows. And the Rebbe gives an introduction in general regarding Torah mitzvahs, which begins at Matan Torah. Hagam as the Yisoid from Kiyam HaTorah is Akdamas Nasel Nishma. The whole entire foundation of a Yid fulfilling Torah comes by saying Nasel Nishma, which means that first you're ready to do whatever you're told, and only then, after that, will you try to understand what the purpose behind it is. But the first thing is the full commitment and dedication to do. But Alpha Pikain is Nasa Alein it Maspik. But nevertheless, at the same time, the fact that you didn't say Nasa and Nishma, not just Nasa alone, who cares about the Nishma? The Nishma means to understand. But if so, Yidden should have just said Nasa, whatever Hashem wants, we'll do. But that's not sufficient. Not es muss sein, es muss euch sein, noch in Nasa, following the Nasa, that full dedication to fulfill and do, v'nishma. Then there has to also be the nishma, which means Meloshan Avana, to understand and try to relate to it, and with your seichel kamoi, as we see in the expression of the pasuk, daber kishemeya avdecha. Speak because your servant is listening, but it doesn't only mean listening, but over there it means to understand. So the Aveda V'Yid begins, and the foundation is Nasa, absolute bittul to Hashem, to fulfill what Hashem wants. But then though, the point is that the whole mitzias of the person, beginning with his seichel, should relate to this and appreciate it and understand it. So the person is fully involved in what he's doing. It's not just a simple Kabbalah cell which leaves the entity of the person sort of out of the picture. Und ist das euch bescheiches zu Knisse Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, the same can be applied over here when it comes to entering into Eretz Yisrael. Der Rebishter hat gesagt Yidden, as he is an Eretz Teva Rechava Goyim. Yes, Hashem promises Yidden that the land is a good land, and everything else that was said about the land. Aber der Rebishter will, as Yidden sollen einsehen der Guts von Eretz Yisrael euch besichlam hängen. But what Hashem desires is that this that Yidden believe in, and this that they know, because Hashem promises them, should be something that they should also understand and appreciate with their own, directly with their own seichel, coming to it and seeing it with their own intellect, that this is in fact so. The will of Hashem should not just remain something that they accept, but it should be something that should permeate and become part of their Metzias. Und Rebbe hat Moshe Rabbeinu geheißen bringen mit Pri Aretz. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu commands the Meraglim to bring back from the fruits of the land. Kedei as the Ratzon von Yidden zu gehen in Eretz Yisrael soll sein, so this will have the effect that the desire of Yidden to go to Eretz Yisrael will now be nicht nur weil so hat der Rebbe geheißen. Not just following obediently what Hashem says that we're going to go, or b'meila folgen sie dem Tzivi Hashem Nase, if Hashem commands, so they listen, which is the Nase, to just follow. Nor euch mitzad ze alein. That Nase itself should become part of their own opinion, that they should feel it and agree to it. They verstehen, they should understand, as medaf velen gain can Eretz Yisrael, that they themselves also want to go to Eretz Yisrael, but ze is the emissary Eretz Teva Rechava, because it's the truly good and broad land for them. That was the point of bringing back the Peiris. So it's not only the fact that they would go either way, but the question is, will they go b'simcha or will they not go b'simcha, as it would seem superficially from the words of the Ramban, but it's a completely different attitude. Either they can go to Eretz Yisrael just with a munah, but their Metzias is not there. They're not interested in going. Hashem wants that the Ratzon of the Eibusher should be fully permeating their Metzias, and they should come along and go realizing that the Ratzon of the Eibusher is true, even al Piseichel, that they can understand it. So now, according to this, we could say that the same could be said as Benegeya den ersten Teil von der Shlichus. Also regarding the first part of the Shlichus, that they were sent to find out what's the best way to conquer the land. As die Kavanah dabei ist gewähnt, as Yidden sollen einsehen bis sichlam wie yochel nuchala. Yidden should realize with their own intellect, they themselves should come to a conclusion that they will have the ability to conquer the land. Right? In other words, of course, if Hashem says they'll be able to conquer the land, it'll happen. Either way, we have to trust Hashem, whether with a miracle, whether according to nature, they'll conquer the land. But this as well, Hashem wants that Yidden should recognize and see with their own seichel that it's actually possible. And therefore, the Meraglim are being sent to come back and to explain Yidden how it is that they're going to conquer the land. So this is the answer to the beginning of the Sikha, the question why Hashem does not command Moshe Rabbeinu to send Meraglim. Und das ist der Tam, for was der Rebishter hat nicht angesagt auf Shiluach HaMeraglim. Why Hashem does not command to send Meraglim, nor Shlach lecha ledaitecha. Rather, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, this is your choice, you decide if you want to send Meraglim. Although, definitely, it's something positive, and Hashem agreed to this. Yay, says the Mechuvim from Shiluach HaMeraglim. Since the whole purpose here of sending the Meraglim is to oiftam by Yidden dem nishma beneged dem knisa la'aretz, is that there should be by the Yidden their own personal involvement and understanding in the good of the land regarding entering the land. Is the riber euch die shiluach gufe gekommen and reifen von der Deitacha. So therefore, the sending of the Meraglim as well is also coming through the decision of the Yidden or of Moshe Rabbeinu here below to send. As mentutes valazoi darvzai mitzadas. What they're doing here, the sending of the Meraglim, is because das, the understanding of Moshe Rabbeinu, is coming to the conclusion that this is the right thing to do. And not just as another mitzvah that you're just fulfilling obediently a command that you're being told to do so. If they would be just doing this as a mitzvah, so then this would defeat the whole purpose. It would just be another step in just following what Hashem wants. But over here, the whole purpose was that the Yidden on their own should decide and they should come to the conclusion that the land is good. So therefore, the same is also regarding sending the Meraglim. This is the Yidden expressing their own personal involvement in trying to take the will of Hashem and make it their own, that it should become their will as well. and therefore it comes dafke through l'daitacha. Moshe Rabbeinu deciding on his own to send. Damit wird man euch verstehen. This answers the second question. Wie sei die Miraglim was Oster Shlach ksherim hoyu? How is it possible that these Miraglim, in that time, they were ksherim, they were the best, most fitting people for this shlichus, they were able to fall, or they were able to stumble, bis zu sagen lenuchalalis, until they came to the conclusion that it's impossible to go to Eretz Yisrael. How did they have such a change of heart? Bald as the inyan shlichus is given, the nishma, since the whole point of this shlichus here is to bring it into your own understanding, the nishma, zu ausforschen die Sach von Knisa Laretz al pi seichel, to go and research this matter, to come to the conclusion intellectually yourself. Is this possible? Is it not? There was room for a mistake to happen in them weighing this matter, whether it's possible to enter or not. If you look at the report that the Meraglim actually brought regarding the land itself and the people that are living in the land, as that the nation there is very strong, that they saw the children of giants there. Everything they said, which brought them to the conclusion that we can't conquer this land, was all true. And even their conclusion that they said, not only the facts, but the conclusion they came to, as that naturally speaking, it's impossible to conquer the land, also has room in Seichel, that it won't be possible for Yidden. So therefore, this is the moment you tell the Meraglim that your shlichus consists of using your own mind rationally, coming to the conclusion whether this is possible or not. So there can be this mistake that happens, that they come to the conclusion that it's impossible. As the Meraglim haben ledaita mekayim gewend the shlichus, welche sie seine geschickt geworden. So the Meraglim, in their opinion, didn't have any change of heart. They were going to look al pi seichel to see if it's possible to conquer the land. And al pi seichel, al pi teva, they come back with the conclusion that it's actually impossible. So they actually, in their mind, fulfilled their shlichus perfectly. So what was their mistake? Their mistake consists of this, was they haben bechlal meisav gewen am maskana, loy nuchalalis. The fact that they even add and give their own conclusion that we cannot go ahead and conquer the land, that's a big mistake. They weren't asked about this conclusion or not. Moshe Rabbeinu hat bei seinem lechatchila nit gefragt, sie men ken einnehmen Eretz Yisrael oder nit. They were not actually asked to come to this, they should draw their own conclusion whether we can or cannot conquer the land. Hat sie bloß geschickt zu ausgefinden, wie ist leichter zu sein. They were only sent to come and give a report how and where, from which direction would it be the easiest way to conquer the land. The Adarab, on the contrary, von dem Gufe, was Moshe hat sie geschickt, Losor es Aretz, auszuforschen, wie zu sein Eretz Yisrael, from the very fact that Moshe Rabbeinu is only sending them to go and find out exactly from where and how to conquer the land, is gewena echoche. This itself is proof, as yachol nuchala eich b'derech hateva, that the conclusion is already known, that it will be possible to conquer the land, and even naturally speaking. If entering Eretz Yisrael is only possible miraculously, so then there's no room at all to send any miraglim at all. So the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu agrees to send miraglim means that naturally it's possible to conquer the land, and he's sending miraglim to begin the process to figure out how they're going to conquer. If so, it comes out as this conclusion that they came to, and they said, no, we cannot go up, we cannot conquer, is not a hisafa of the shlichus. It's not just adding another point to the shlichus, giving information or coming to a conclusion that they were not asked about. Nor nachmer says heipech hashlichus. More so, this is the exact opposite of the entire shlichus. The whole foundation of the shlichus was that we definitely could conquer the land. Now let's begin the process. Let's see how we're going to get this done. They took it a step further because it was given to them to start analyzing and interrogating with their seichel. So they used their seichel not only to give the facts and the information, but also to draw a conclusion which was the opposite of the whole foundation of the shlichus, that we definitely can conquer the land. So, but the point here is that the way this can happen is, since the whole shlichus consists of using your own seichel, when you begin using your own seichel, there's a possibility that there's a mistake in shikol hadas, that you start making conclusions that are not the way it should be. Teire is meloshen hoira. Teire means a lesson, an instruction that we can take from this. Is the form verstandig, so therefore we understand from this. As in Teire is euch voran die Anweisung, wie sich zu bewahren von die Torah Samaraglim. So in Teire itself, there must be a lesson how we could be warned of not falling through with the same mistake that the Meraglim did. Was the Eitzah? So what is advice Teire gives us for this? So the Shem HaSedre, like Minig Yisrael, the name of the actual Parsha itself, according to Minig, is Shlach. Meloshen Shlichus, that you're being sent. You're on a mission and you're being sent. What does this teach us? What a Yid has to know is, even when he's in the stage of his Avodas Hashem, where it's about him bringing his seichel as well, to be involved, to understand the will of Hashem, as it is over here in the case of the Meraglim, that it's your decision. But he has to realize that this itself that he wants to understand with seichel, what Hashem wants, it's not because he's interested in this, he's doing it because that's what Moshe Rabbeinu sends you to do. Not because he feels that he wants to understand this matter. That if I want to understand, so then I don't feel good about this. It doesn't make a difference if you do feel good or you don't feel good about it. You accept completely what Hashem wants, whether you understand it or not. Part of what Hashem wants, part of the shlichus is that even you should understand as well. That's the will of Hashem, that you should understand as well. So now, we're at this stage where I have to bring the will of Hashem into my seichel as well. But it's not because I feel like I'm lacking something if I don't understand. It doesn't make a difference whether you're lacking or not. That doesn't matter at all. If that's the person's attitude, even when he's trying to understand with seichel, he knows that he's only doing so because that's what Hashem wants, is membavorin nitnar mit den nase naroich mit den nishma. So then the person will be clear and fulfill what Hashem wants, not only when he's at the stage of nase, where he's accepting and just doing what Hashem wants, but even when he comes to the nishma, when he is trying to understand and connect with his own intellect to Hashem's will, even there he won't go off with the seichel. Das versichert as the seichel wird sein as seichel amiti. The fact that he's only doing so because this is the will of Hashem, so this guarantees that his conclusion that he comes to will be accurate and right. Und kommen zu the maskana amitis, will come to the right conclusion. So you have to it depends why the person is getting involved in the seichel. You have to take that bittul that there is in the nasa and realize that the nishma is a continuation of the same bittul. It's the will of Hashem has to permeate everything, including your seichel as well. But it's not that whether you understand it or not in its own has value because you want to understand. That's the beginning where things go off. Here the Rebbe adds another point, which is from the aspect of what seichel truly is. If you understand what the truth of seichel is, so then it demands that you should stick to the truth. The zach von seichel is what the real entity of seichel, zu ausgefinden wie der Muskel is lamitose. That's the real concept of seichel. A person that's ready to put all preconceived notions and any other ideas aside, any own personal tendencies aside, and just to be ready for the objective truth wherever the facts will lead him. That's the real concept of seichel. Man darf mevatel sein, alle eigenen Netias v'chulu, put aside any of your own personal leanings, und sich zutragen zu der Sach, was man will verstehen, and to be totally and completely focused on the subject matter that you're trying to understand. But if a person is involved in something, even intellectually, but he's doing so because he has a personal pleasure in this, a certain personal feeling in this, then it is possible, as his own Zacharai mission, then it's possible that his own personal conclusions or his own personal leanings will influence the conclusion of the seichel that he's involved in. Bis as wird proven zu passen, the Metzias zu sein Dehe, to the point that it's even possible that he will try to make the facts fit to his own personal opinion, because he's not involved in this because there's an actual pursuit of truth here, but there's something personal that he has involved in this. So even looking at this just from the perspective of seichel, yes, pure intellect, even pure intellect, if you're involved in seichel just for the purpose of what seichel is, the real idea of seichel is trying to look and find the truth and nothing else. And here, the Meraglim are lacking that. But das ist eine von den Biyurim in Inyan HaSheichad. This is also one of the explanations regarding the concept of bribery. Was Teire sagt, dass HaSheichad Ya'ave Eine Chachamim v'Yisalev Divrei Tzadikim. That bribery blinds even the people that are wise, and even tzaddikim, the words of tzaddikim, become crooked if they accept bribery. That's what it says in the pasuk. So seemingly you can ask on this, Bibal, das Teiras emes is made as a seretzach wegen chachamim und tzaddikim. If Teira, which is truth, is telling us that in fact these are people that are chachamim and are tzaddikim. So that means that it's a true matter. They are on the level that he's called a chacham and a tzaddik. So how is it possible that they could even accept bribery? So the answer is, what kind of bribery are we talking about over here? Because bribery is nicht nur was man nennt Geld. It doesn't just mean that you accept money or any other bribery. Und wird man sagen an offenem sheker, and as a result, a person will be ready to say an outright lie regarding the subject that he's discussing. No, rather, bribery in a more subtle degree means was man tracht nicht wegen der Metzies wie sie ist. The very fact that a person is not thinking about a subject as it is, the truth of the matter for what it is. No, man tracht wegen sich und der eigene Metzies. You go to it with yourself, that you have a certain personal interest in this subject that you're discussing here, or that you're thinking about. So the mitzias, the self of the person, is involved in this, and therefore that influences the conclusion. Was damalt kann man nicht haben, kein Havana mitis in the muskel. Wie is be'emes. And then it's impossible to come to the right and accurate conclusion regarding this idea, as it is truthfully. Right? So the bribery over here is the self of the person. The bribery of the fact that you go to a subject not being able to shed all layers of yourself, of different preconceived notions that you have. That's the kind of bribery that's possible by Chachamim and Tzadikim. So this is the cause for the mistake and the downfall of the Meraglim. What they were lacking is to fully nullify themselves to the will of Moshe Rabbeinu. And anayfin, as da soll der Herd werden, euch beschaß, sie seinen vernommen mit an Ingen von Nishma loser Saaretz. That even when their entire mission consists of using their faculty of seichel to understand and think and analyze, but even there they should understand that this is only being done so because Moshe Rabbeinu demands. It's just another step of fulfilling the will of what Moshe Rabbeinu sends them for, not because they have any personal interest in using their seichel for this matter. Because they felt, or they sort of experienced themselves and their need or their interest in what they're doing here. So therefore, when they see these giants in Eretz Yisrael, they became so afraid and they saw themselves as these small grasshoppers. Und das ist geworden, that is, and this became an inyan von sheicha. This became like a bribery. Was hat matte gewesen sehr seichel, just like bribery that doesn't allow you to think straight, because they didn't have that full bittul to the truth of what Moshe Rabbeinu demanded of them. So what they saw changed their thinking. They couldn't think straight, and they couldn't come to the right conclusion that Moshe Rabbeinu asked of them. Bis zu sagen lenuchal ales, and that's how they came to the conclusion when they said that it's impossible to go up to Eretz Yisrael. That is the source of the mistake of the Meraglim. So here comes the lesson that we learn out from the name of the parasha. Shlach. When one remembers, though, that everything he's doing, he's just doing it as a shliach, he was sent on a mission. A shliach, when that sent, is like the mishaleach. He's completely nullified to whatever the mishaleach is sending him to do. A shliach hat nicht kein eigener Metzias. And in fact, the Shliach has no entity of his own. Nor sein ganze Metzias is the Metzias of Mishalech. The entire entity of the Shliach is the Mishalech. He's acting on behalf of the Mishalech, so much so that he's not an entity for himself. That's really what a Shliach is. Und in der Ruf Gufe is Mishluchai Shel Moshe. And who a shliach of whom? You're a shliach of Moshe Rabbeinu. But Moshe Rabbeinu is midas ha'emes. Moshe Rabbeinu represents the attribute of truth. Men bleibt zugebunden zu Moshe Rabbeinu midas ha'emes. You remain always connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the attribute of truth. And you don't step away from that truth even for a moment, even when it is demanded of you to utilize your own seichel, to think and analyze things on your own. But that's all part of the shlichus to fulfill what Moshe Rabbeinu wants. And tracht die ganze Zeit nicht wegen sich. He's constantly thinking, not about himself, not as men geht in Moshe Rabbeinu's shlichus, but rather you're here, you're going, you're fulfilling the shlichus of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the only thought that a shliach has in every aspect of every detail that he does. Then there's no bribery, and the main bribery, as the Rebbe said before, is from oneself. You'll have the ability to fulfill the shlichus, to go and see the land, which does demand for you to use your intellect, but to use it properly and accurately, b'shleimus and fully. Then you'll come to the proper conclusion that the land that Hashem gives us is good. This will bring to conquer the land, all of its borders, and also the fulfillment of the promise, as Yarchiv Hashem lekechas gvulcha, that Lasad Lavi Hashem will broaden the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, bebias Mashiach tzedkeinu, with the arrival of Mashiach b'meira v'yameinu mamish.